Welcome to Factorio Space Age coverage. My name is Nilaus and I played Factorio Space Age for 50 hours at an invite-only event hosted by the developers, so thank you very much for inviting me. In this video I'll be providing my reactions and my impressions and how the game actually works. And I will not be giving any spoilers because the agreement I have with the developers is that anything that has been talked about in the Friday Factorio Facts, I can talk about it in more detail and how it works and how it actually feels to play it, but I can't really mention anything that hasn't been mentioned there. So no more spoilers. If you read the Friday Factorio Facts, you're not going to get any more spoilers, but you can get a sense of how it actually feels to play it from watching this video. I'll be structuring this video to go through first, talk a little bit about the event, then talking about the overall impressions, then going into the features, talking about quality, talking about trains, talking about spaceships and space in general, talking about the exploring of new planets, and talking about enemies, and then we'll go into the specifics of each of the 3 planets that have been revealed: Volcanus, Gleba, and Fulgora. And then I'm going to wrap up with talking about the content plan that I'll be, what kind of content I plan to do when I move forward. So if you find this interesting, be sure to hit the like button. Leave a comment below with a question. I'm not going to be answering questions in the comment section because then I have to answer the same questions many times. But leave them there. Come by my Twitch streams and you can ask the questions while I'm streaming Satisfactory over the next month. Then you can come by and we can talk about the Factorio Space Age as well while playing Satisfactory. And also, if there's a lot of the same questions, then I might do a follow-up video with more detail as we move closer. The event. Well, the event was 100 people invited by the developers to come together to a LAN party, and it was mainly mod makers, people from the Discord, and creators in general. So I met some creators, I met some mod makers, and I met all of the devs, and it was really cool to meet the devs. They were really awesome and really friendly, and it was just an all-around really nice event. The event itself was split where we were sort of split into 10 teams. So you just got into a team and then you're working with 10 other people or 9 other people on a server to sort of explore together. And that was an absolutely miserable experience for me because, yeah, I have my own style. Let's just say it like that. And this was just absolute spaghetti mess of just cutting corners, paving over things, and it was hard to be part of a multiplayer like that with people I didn't know, and certainly had different styles. And it was also like too much rushing. It was very much like, oh, let's rush and see as much of the new content as possible. And that's just not what I wanted. So I talked to the devs and I loaded up a base in the book save instead and played solo for the rest of the event. And it was much more enjoyable for me because I didn't want to see everything. So there's things that I have deliberately not gone into at all, and then there are other things that I spend more time on sort of designing and trying to come up with clever solutions, and that just feels a lot better. So there's still a lot of the game that I haven't seen at all or only just touched briefly, which is great because that means 50 hours is not at all enough. Like, you can complete the game in 50 hours for sure, but you're not going to be like a first playthrough. You might sort of complete the game, but you're not going to have a really good base or anything like that in 50 hours. And I think it's going to be many, many more hours than that going into even my first playthrough. So moving into the overall impression of the game, and in one word, awesome is the only word that comes to mind. It is absolutely amazing and it fits so well together. I know that we will, in half a year, when we've been playing through it many times, we'll be sitting there and thinking, did we used to only have one planet? And did we really feel that that was enough? That doesn't make any sense. This is, it's not just a twice as big game, it's many times as big, but it still feels Factorio. And that's the most brilliant thing. It's different enough that it is unique and challenging and will put you to the test, and your designs you've been building before don't work anymore. That's good. But it still feels very Factorio-like, and that's absolutely amazing. So this is the one thing that I was most concerned about, sort of an overall thing, is that if it didn't feel like sufficiently different, it would just be like, oh, build the same base a number of times, and it's kind of boring. On the other hand, if it felt too different, then it was like, oh, this doesn't feel like Factorio anymore. This feels very gimmicky. But it strikes that balance of feeling like Factorio, but there's enough of a difference that you have to think in different ways. And that is absolutely amazing. So when does the game start, or how does it work? Well, it works actually as soon as you launch the first rocket, and you can now launch the rocket. They're cheaper, and you can launch them at blue signs. But I don't know if that's, well, I do know it's not worth it doing that. I would recommend that you do the usual stuff and basically launch a rocket when you're done with production science and logistics science, because there are so many things that you need As part of that, that will be handy when you go to space. Also, you want a really functional base so that you can, when you go to space and start exploring new planets, you have a reliable base that works and can provide stuff to you. And I think that's important. So as a result, both for content plan and for you, I'm going to prepare a save in Space Age so that I can, on day one, start playing from launching the first rocket instead of sort of playing through the entire game itself and just spending a lot of time on building a base that we've seen before. And luckily, someone has already created a book full of base designs that will make it easy to make a new base. So that's something I'm going to be doing before the launch, as I do already have access. So how does it work, the game? The thing is, it's really smooth, the transition from one planet to multi-planet. It kind of gradually gets there. You launch rockets, you get some space science, then you have to build a space platform, which is, it's difficult because there's no explanation. There are no tips. Well, there are tips, but they don't really explain what it is. And I spent a lot of time trying to figure things out, and it was difficult to get it. But once I got it, it's just, you just get used to how it works, and it works really smooth. But there is this thing, which is a common thing in Factorio, is that it's really difficult to get into a new feature, but once you're into the feature, it's perfect, it makes sense, it's great. So someone really should make YouTube videos for it, right? And make tutorials on how to do these kind of things. So I think I'll be doing that. So that transition is really smooth. Another thing when you get to new planets that I think is really important to mention is the remote view. The remote view in space exploration was absolutely atrocious. It was just really annoying to work in that view. But in Space Age, they've incorporated so you can do anything. You can interact with ghosts, you can put circuits in, you can set things while they're only ghosts, and you can remove things in inventory in chests. It's so well integrated that you don't really need to be present at any location, which is as long as you have robots to do the work. But that's really important because if you can only play on different planets in remote view, then it can be really clunky if that doesn't work well, and it works so well. So that's something that we can take comfort in, because that was what I was really worried about, that switching between planets later on would be difficult and cumbersome, but it's really not. It's very comfortable, it's very smooth, and there are only some few things you can't do, like you have a train stranded somewhere that's out of Roboport range and is out of fuel. That's the one case where I had to go there to fix it. But generally you can fix anything you want, and from the remote view, and I think that's really important when going to multiple planets. So how it works is that the exploration is also really cool, and I'll come back to each of the planets in more detail. But the idea of just building, flying, surviving, and then landing, and then you're kind of stranded there until you can launch a rocket and get back up to space. But in that time, you are exploring a new planet, and you have to figure out the dynamics, the science, the dangers, all the things that are unique to that planet, and that works so well. So that is a huge compliment. So that's what I really want to see more of. Like, the core thing that I would want to mention is that actually now with Space Age we have 6 different planes that we're working on. Previously we had Nilaus, and there are the rules that are part of Factorio, but now we have space, and as has been described in the Factorio Friday Facts, spaces works a little bit different, because you don't have power poles, you can't have robots, but things build itself, and there's this platform, and there are platform rules as well, and you can't really have boxes, so you can't buffer things very well, and that means there are some things that are weird, and you have to design in a special way. Like when you go to Volcanus, you have to process lava into materials, but you can then get a lot of it. That's really cool and interesting. There are also other interesting things about Volcanus that we are not going to be talking about. On Fulgora, you kind of end up having a ton of blue circuits, but no iron and copper, and that feels really weird, and you have to address that. On Gleba, there's farming and new biters, and those are just weird mechanics as well. And then, of course, on the last planet, there are also other things. So every layer is different, but it still feels very much Factorio-like, and I absolutely love that. So you have to readjust your mindset. Oh yeah, on this planet, this is how I work. This is what's easy here, this is what's difficult here. And I think that's absolutely amazing to have that aspect of the game as part of the Space Age expansion. Let's talk features. One of the core features, or one that I've been looking most forward to, is actually the quality feature. And I tried it. I tried it a bit. I did some cool designs. It's a really fun design challenge of just kind of circulating and rotating things. And I think it's a really good spot because it is cumbersome, it's logistically annoying, and the result, it's really expensive, and the results are marginal. That's exactly where it should be, because it should be something optional that you don't want to do. Everything should be higher quality. It should be something where I have a functional base, it's not really doing anything. Let me try rolling the dice for something cool. And also, there are only a few things in the beginning that you really want. Like, yeah, there are some things that you want to have better, particularly items or machines you work on spaceships, because they are kind of constrained with space, so you want to have the best kind of items there as possible. But it's really not worth it. And I was looking at it, like, we were thinking like, oh, you're going to be upgrading your personal roboport or personal armor or something like that. But they're so expensive that you want to roll the dice 10 times just for one of them to be a little bit of an upgrade. Oh, that's expensive. But I think that's really interesting as well, that it is this expensive, because that means it's more of a late game thing. I also really like that it is some of it is locked behind later tech, so you don't sort of get trapped in this. And I think it's really is a trap. It's a trap that, oh, I want this, but you're only going to get like 30% more productivity from an uncommon item, or not productivity, but 30% better from an uncommon item. But you still need 10 rolls of it if you have the good stuff for it. And I think that's perfect. It's perfect where it is. It means that there are some things you want to use it for, but it's mainly reserved as a late game thing. So absolutely love that feature. It is excruciatingly painful to manage the inventory, because every item in every quality is a new inventory stack. This means that if you have, I don't know, green circuits or red circuits, and then you suddenly have multiple different stacks or just power poles or something like that, where you might want to keep some better power poles around just for that rare occasion. But then suddenly you're stuck. You're stuck with having half your inventory full of things with a little green dot or two little blue dots, and it gets annoying as well. And managing it on belts and filtering off and splitting and all that stuff is also tedious. And things have a tendency to jam because you didn't think about that when you're designing stuff. So I like it in every way, and it's going to cause a lot of headaches for a lot of people who jump into it too early. So perfect feature. Trains. Well, there are new interrupt schedules, and there are new elevation. And I didn't play so much with it. I love the elevation thing. It's neat. It has a specific use somewhere. I didn't start doing crazy designs on train designs, but I think there are a lot of potential for it, and it's going to be fun to mess with. The interrupt, I didn't get to play it myself. Didn't get to play with it myself because I just didn't have a base that was big enough to warrant having trains. But I also have a little bit of a sneaking suspicion that it's going to be the new thing, and because it's new, everyone's going to jump at it, and it's not actually going to be the best way to do everything, because it's so tempting to have like one train that does everything, one type of train does everything, and have everything managed as interrupt to a default schedule. And I don't know if that's the best way, to be perfectly honest. And that's I'm gonna try it. I'm gonna set it up, and then we'll see once sort of the dust has settled. I think that there are some things that you end up designing more of an logistics train network where trains go back to a train yard, which just generates a lot more traffic in the train network. So once you really get into mega basing, I'm not really sure it's the best way to do everything, but I think it's a really cool feature and something I'm definitely going to play with. So let's talk about space and space platforms and spaceships as a result. This was something that was explained in the Friday Factorio Facts, and it didn't really make sense to me. Like, how was I going to use it, and how did it actually work? Because they were sort of like, oh, you need it for science, and you need it for sort of transporting back and forth. So I'm going to try to explain it a little bit more in detail of how it actually works and how I think it is intended to work, and then some of the limitations that are there. One of the core design principles, I talked to Kovarex about it, and he was quite adamant about this, was that he wanted space platforms to be self-reliant or self-sufficient. And that means that they should be sort of running on the stuff that they can capture from asteroids. They capture things from asteroids, and then you process it on the platform, and then that should sort of be making your fuel and your ammo, and then you can propel yourself and you can defend yourself. Awesome. It didn't quite work that way because it's still better to import ammo from Navis, like uranium ammo, instead of crafting yellow ammo. And that's a little bit of a shame, but it's something that can potentially be tweaked. It was just easier because you have all of Navis and just fill up a lot of ammo, and then just you're safe. So there's some things that are not quite there in terms of balance, but this is a really cool idea that you sort of have to capture asteroids continuously in order to sort of propel this spaceship and then make them self-reliant, so you're not sort of like trains have to refuel them because they take care of that yourself. This is really really interesting. What I designed was I designed a space platform that was just static, and that was just going to be hovering in orbit and doing the space science and sending it down to Navis. Really cool, really easy, and really functional. But when you want to make spaceships, you have to put thrusters, and they need fuel, and they need oxidizers, and they need all sorts of things to propel them forward. Plus, they need to defend themselves against asteroids. So this is where you need a different kind of ship design, and it works really well. It's really fun that it turns out that I found a good way that I could manage a sushi belt, like me doing sushi belts circuits, and sushi belts and managing 6+ resource on one belt, which is managing to put it into the belt and out of the belt as sort of we kept it as a buffer. It was really fun to design. I'm not sure it's the most efficient thing, but it was fun to design, and that's exactly the point, is that it's really fun to come up with things in a limited space, because that's something we never really had to design in Factorio. There's always been enough space, but suddenly you have this really cramped in, like, okay, if I move this one tile down, then I can put this over here. It feels a lot more like playing Shapes 2, where you have this constrained space and you want to cram in as much as possible in that space. Super amazing. Also, when you have a really cool spaceship design, you can just copy it and make another one, and it's really awesome. So I think that works really well. The transporting wise, space platforms also work a little bit like trains, like they can have a schedule going back and forth. This to me seems like something that has evolved more than sort of been intended all the way, because there are some things that don't work and some things that do work, and you can't build the same kind of logic that you can on a train network, because there are some things missing. And I talked to the developers about it, and I hope that they will be added, because I feel that that's a fundamental thing to make your interplanetary logistics as flexible and as smooth as your ground-based, the train-based. Because right now, it's kind of intended that you pick up stuff and then you sort of go around to, like the ice cream truck, go around to the other planets and ask, hey, do you want some of that? Do you want some of that? Do you want some of that? Come back to the original planet and pick up some more. Go back. Do you want some of that? And that's not how you would design a train network. You would, based on pull requests and supply and demand, but that's really not possible as it is right now. So that's it's okay. And remember, train limits were added like many years into the development of Factorio, so I'm sure that a lot of things will be added as we progress. It's definitely functional, it's definitely cool. I just like a little bit more flexibility, and I know that other creators and people there were also requesting the same thing. So fingers crossed, maybe we'll get it. So once you've been to space, then the next thing is you'll want to land on a planet. And landing on a planet for the first time is an amazing experience, because you're sort of there and you have to figure out, okay, what do I do? And there are basically two different experiences you can have when landing on a planet. You can land there, and this is the first thing I did, was I flew there, I landed on a planet, my spaceship got destroyed in orbit, and I was stranded. I couldn't get any more, I couldn't get anything. I was just like, all right, I have to build everything from scratch. It was frustrating, challenging, and fun. Then on the second planet I landed on, I made sure that I had supplies of rockets coming in with all the stuff that I needed. I could request the stuff that I wanted if I was running out of something, and that meant I could land and build a network and build a rocket and landing pads and all the stuff that I needed, so that I got started much quicker. And it's up to you which one you prefer. I think there are strengths and advantages. I think it's fun, but a little bit too frustrating to not have anything. But on the other hand, it also just becomes really easy when you just land and you get hundreds of solar panels and robots and roboports and power poles and all that stuff, and you just can sort of build a base instantly. So how much you want is up to you, and what kind of experience you want on a new planet is also up to you. And I think that it works great in both ways, and it is a choice how much you want to prepare or how much you want to dive in and get the sort of the rough experience, because you can definitely survive on each of the planets and build up a base from nothing, and that's in itself a challenge. But it's just easier if you're well supplied. So I think that's a great balance, and it's an interesting thing that you need to address on each of the planets by themselves. Enemies. Now, some things have been revealed, some things have not been revealed. I can say that on Novice, enemies are pretty much the same. There are some nerfs to personal lasers, and there are some buffs to the spawner health. So particularly in late game, things can get a little bit more difficult, a little bit more tedious, and I don't know why they did that, but that's the decision. So on Nilaus, it's pretty much the same. On Volcanus and Fulgora, I can't say anything except I think it's in a good place. And on Gleba, we've seen the pentapod enemies. They work really well, and didn't go a lot to Gleba, but I think they're a nice balance. So overall, I think biters are in a better place than they were in vanilla. There are a lot of things that I wish was different in particularly on Novice, but they've sort of been focusing on the new planets and not changing the overall look and feel and gameplay of Novice, which I think is totally valid thing, because if you change too much, then it also becomes unfamiliar and then skews balance in all sorts of different ways. So I can't really talk much about biters enemies in general, but I'm going to say that it's in a good place and it felt quite comfortable. So that was good for someone who really doesn't like biters. Now, don't even get me started on cliffs. They're the real enemies. Talk about planets. There are 3 planets you can choose in the beginning. So when you launch, you can go to Volcanus, you can go to Fulgora, or you can go to Gleba. They are same distance away, and there's nothing that sort of forces you to do one over the other, and you get different rewards, and all the rewards are pretty damn cool. But I think that you should not go to Gleba first. The rewards are much later, and you get some really, really good rewards for Volcanus and for Fulgora. So I would say go to those first and take Gleba as the 3rd planet. It is more difficult, it's more cumbersome, and therefore it's good to have the other bases set up first. Also, the rewards are later game, so you really want the other rewards first. So Volcanus. Let's talk about Volcanus. This is the lava planet, and it is, you land there and it's incredibly frustrating to move around. There are rocks everywhere and cliffs and lava, and you can make undergrounds under lava, which makes perfect sense, but it's frustrating, but in a good way. It's great. This is also where you get your cliff explosives, so oh boy, do you beeline for cliff explosives and just blow up everything that looks like a cliff and clear out some space there. It's really interesting because on Volcanus it starts being really constrained because you're just walking around with stones and trees and everything that's blocking everything as you move. But you will be able to sort of get some space and build a proper base, which is really awesome. And the buildings you get, the tech you get, it functions really well together. One of the things that was kind of, I think it was evident from the Friday Factorio Facts, is that you make iron and copper out of, or even low density structures and steel and gears out of lava, so you have infinite resources. And that's a really cool thing. And this is also when we mentioned the overhaul to fluid system. That is so good. That is, thank you, Raygard, for making that. I love the new fluid system. It is so good, and it's so necessary to have on Volcanus, because you're going to be using a lot of pipes and to manage the flow of lava and molten things. And it's a super cool challenge, and I love it. And you're going to get crazy production there of basic stuff. So I absolutely love Volcanus. It needs to get it's frustrating to land on, but once you get going, you really feel that snowball effect of just picking up speed, and it's like, all right, now I got that going. Okay, this is fast now. And that's amazing. Second base is Fulgora, or second planet, not necessarily in that order, but the second planet I'm going to talk about is Fulgora. I landed on Fulgora first. Um, it's really interesting because while on Volcanus you have lots of iron and copper and steel, like base materials, so you have to work your way up the tech tree to get the other stuff. But on Fulgora it's the other way around. You get blue chips, you get low density structures, you get solid fuel, just like that for free everywhere, but you don't get a single scrap of iron or copper or green circuits. So you now need to sort of break down your blue circuits in order to make green circuits, and break down your green circuits in order to make iron and green and copper. It just feels so weird and so wrong. And there are 12 products coming out of the recycling of scrap. And on top of that, if you recycle some of those things, there's a total number of 18 products that you can get as part of the recycling. And if any one of those jam, the whole thing stops. Isn't that amazing? So now the challenge on Fulgora is to make sure that you have enough of these things. You balance the amount of iron versus iron gears and green circuits, blue circuits, red circuits, all that stuff. You have to manage that and make sure that nothing ever jams. Because if it jams, you're stuck and you're not producing anything, which is super amazing. Like usually it's like, all right, cool. If I have too many blue circuits, I just don't produce any more blue circuits. But if in this case, if you have too many blue circuits, you're not producing anything. So you have to find a way to recycle additional blue circuits to sort of break them down into other parts that you might need more. Even to the point of breaking down blue circuits just to get iron plates. It feels so wrong, but that's the cool thing about Fulgora, is that it just flips the progression, the item progression on its head, and you have to solve a different problem, and it's incredibly rewarding. And then with the electromagnetic plant and your ability to make circuits and modules and stuff like that with 50% productivity, that is so amazing. Like rockets are launching quickly, circuits and are going to be built quickly. Like things are amazing here. The light mechanic is also super fun. Like really. It's not frustrating. It's just a thing that, I need to manage it. And power management is also weird. And these islands, Fulgora is by far my favorite planet right now. It is so weird and it's so great and it's so much fun. So definitely great. I mean, Volcanus is also great, but Fulgora just had something unique about it that is very much Factorio, but also very different. So definitely look forward to that. Gleba is definitely the hardest of the planets, not because of the biters, but because of the spoilage. Like the stuff the fact that things spoil means that every single part of your design is going to be different. It's going to have to handle filtering out things that spoil on your belts or on your robots or in your machines. And a single thing that changes like that is that you didn't catch in your design, and the whole thing just grinds to a halt. And if it grinds to a halt, everything turns to spoil. It's real quick. It is a difficult challenge. I only got there a little bit and I was like, yeah, I'm not going to dive into this because I want to save it for launch. So Gleba is pretty much on uncovered ground for me, but it looks and feels amazing. And I've looked at the challenges that it presents and they are not trivial. So this is going to be really exciting to play that and to get into that. So it's really exciting. I really like Gleba as well. I don't think it's going to be my favorite planet because this spoilage mechanic is a little bit tedious, and you don't get this sense of awe that you get from the other planets where you just have these machines that just have 50% productivity. You don't really have that on Gleba, so it's got to be something else. But the rewards are super amazing as well. So definitely an amazing planet, and the new biters work really well in making it a different kind of challenge here. So also really amazing planet. It's not as tedious as farming is in Angels mods or space exploration, which is good because is there even space exploration? I don't know. Yes, there is, but it's not tedious and it's unique and it's interesting. So that's really awesome to have that. That brings us to the content plan. So what am I going to do when we get to release? Well, on the 14th of October, that's when the embargo lifts. So I have a week before everyone else where I can start creating content. And I'll be, of course, creating a lot of content, both here for YouTube and also for Twitch. What I've decided to do is that I had the choice should I play the hell out of the game so that on day one I would have a lot of solved problems for you, blueprints and designs, and okay, this is how we do this, but then there would be less sense of wonder because I'd get that sense of wonder myself. So what I did was, in this event, I only played on 2 planets, so that I would have a lot of stuff, like half the game uncovered, and then spend more time on sort of designing and understanding the features and kind of feeling the flow of the game. And that means like Gleba and the final planet are untouched, and that means we get to see them together on live streams. So I'll be streaming it, of course, pretty much every day on Twitch TV/Nilaus, and that's where we're going to be doing design and exploration and just bouncing ideas and exploring and learning it, so that on my YouTube Let's Play, which will be part Let's Play, part tutorial, I'll be focusing on sort of more explaining and showing features instead of just like trying things out, because I have that on Twitch. So for the YouTube content, I was thinking, okay, so if I start a new Let's Play here on YouTube, then the first 10 episodes are just going to be like, and now we make green science, and now we make blue science, and now we do oil, and who cares about that? Because you've already watched many hours and played it many hours. So I'm going to prepare, as I mentioned in the beginning, a save in Space Age that will be ready. It'll be no console commands, and so that it is it's achievement enabled, and it'll be available to patrons. That will be ready for you on day one, so that you can download the save, and that means you can load up a base that works, I hope, and start launching rocket and get it into the new stuff, instead of just pouring 10, 20, 30, 40 hours or however much you need to get a fully functional base before you can even see the new stuff. Because that's one of the things that is always always a thing, like you have to get to the new stuff. So I'm going to prepare that, and if you're a patron supporter, you can download that. I'm going to be making a lot of blueprints. I'm going to make a lot of designs, because that's kind of my thing, and we'll be playing it both on YouTube and Twitch. If you want to see more things, then let me know what kind of things you want. Not going to make masterclasses anytime soon, because masterclasses is something for me that it needs a lot more time. So I need to make sure that sort of it has settled, and there's a common belief and understanding of how features work before we start giving it designs that I would say these are optimized designs. Sure, someone else will make something they call masterclasses, but for me, my quality standard means that it's going to be a while. We can do tutorials and that kind of thing in the meantime, but not masterclasses yet. But there's going to be tons of things to cover. And to wrap this up, I think it is absolutely amazing. If you're considering whether you should buy it, the answer is yes. Buy the damn game, play it. It is so big. It's I played 8,000 hours of Factorio. I am ready to pour in another 8,000 hours into Space Age. So it is that amazing. I'm looking so much forward to it, and so should you. So thank you very much for watching. Leave a comment below if there are things that you want me to go into more detail with. I'm not going to be answering them in comments, but I might be addressing it during live streams, and if there are enough sort of similar questions, I might do another video with going a little bit deeper into some of the things as we get a little bit closer. So thank you very much for watching. I will see you guys for Factorio Space Age launch, and hopefully for Satisfactory before that. Thank you for watching. Until next time, take care and stay effective.